What's up, fellas? This week we got UFC 293, Israel Adesanya versus Strickland. And honestly, this card is pretty underwhelming. There's not a lot of name value on it. The main card isn't very good. The main event isn't really that intriguing. The co-main event should be interesting, but it's kind of an underwhelming card. Like a lot of big favorites and just not all that intriguing. But here we're here to try and make some money, get some bets in. So to get us started with the first fight of the night, we got Kevin Jousett going against Kiefer Crosbie, and both of these fighters are making their UFC debut. And honestly, this fight should probably be taking place on Dana White's Contender Series. Like I don't know why this has to happen in the UFC, but both of these fighters have their downsides. But there's much more concerns on the Crosbie side. Crosbie has been finished 2 times in the first round in his career, while Kevin is not a big power puncher. He is a highly credited kickboxer training at CKB, so I would not be surprised if he just touched Crosbie's chin once and he fell down. And then also, Crosbie has all of his finishes in the first round, which caused me to question his cardio, or at least take note that his power does not translate to the later rounds. And I do expect Kevin to have the better cardio here. On how I think this fight will play out, I think it will be a closely contested kickboxing fight, and I favor Kevin to win a decision here because of the cardio and durability. If Crosbie wins this fight, it's probably by round 1 KO. We look at the odds, and we see Kevin as a minus 135 favorite. Crosbie sitting here at plus 114. That is probably about right, given how many question marks there are in this fight, and there's better spots to bet on this card, so I'm just going to stay away. Next up, we got Shane Young going against Gabriel Miranda. I'm not impressed with either of these fighters, and I believe the loser of this fight probably gets cut unless they decide to feed Gabriel to someone else. Gabriel is a pretty talented submission artist with questionable durability, and he does get put in bad positions a lot going for subs. And I have seen him choose to just quit and get out of there. Whereas Shane Young is more of a striker, known for his durability, and that's about it, to be honest. In this matchup, Shane Young has a 65% takedown defense. I don't think this fight will touch the mat unless Shane Young makes a mistake. And overall, I don't think Shane Young's that high level of a fighter, and very well could make a mistake and get submitted, but I just don't see it. And I believe if he's able to keep this on the feet, he will win a decision or potentially get a late stoppage TKO. The pick is Shane Young by TKO, and I just see him kind of picking up the pace in front of his home crowd and really wanting to get the finish here. So that's why I picked the TKO, and then but Miranda has only been knocked out once in 6 losses, so he very well could lose the decision here. And losing to Benoit Saint Denis in his UFC debut is not a terrible look at all, so it's hard to tell where he's at exactly, but still going with Shane Young as my pick. The odds have him as a minus 166 favorite. Miranda at plus 140. And that line's honestly a little bit closer than I expected. I definitely think there's value on Shane Young at that price, but I'm just staying away from this fight. It's a little sketchy to me. Next up, we got Blood Diamond going against Charlie Radtke. I honestly don't understand why Blood Diamond is still getting opportunities in the UFC after 2 absolutely terrible performances, even if he is friends with Izzy. They're bringing a fighter with a 7-3 record here to try and get Blood Diamond to win, and it still is not a great stylistic matchup for him. I do believe Charlie possesses skills to take down Blood Diamond, and so that is a very clear path to victory. I also just have not seen these magical striking skills that Blood Diamond possesses so far. He has kind of looked like just a guy out there when he's on the feet. I don't see any power. I don't see really that many creative, kicking or anything like that. He's gonna just, point fight for 15 minutes. Don't see it happening. But at this point, he has been in the UFC for 1.5 years, training at CKB. So maybe he has made some improvements. But that being said, he's 35 years old. Uh, Maybe perhaps Charlie is being brought in to lose. I'm not all that impressed with him, but there's no way I'm putting my money anywhere near Blood Diamond. So the pick is Charlie Radtke by sub. You look at the odds. The odds have him as a minus 235 favorite. And Blood Diamond's a plus 195 dog. That is as expected. And I'm probably just going to stay away just because I'm not too high on either fighter. Next up, we got Nasrat Haqparast going against Landon Quinones. Landon is coming off getting ran through on The Ultimate Fighter by Jason Knight in 55 seconds. I don't see a path for Landon to win this fight, and I expect Nasrat to be a big favorite. There's no real... Nasrat has a 78% takedown defense, and Landon isn't a wrestler. Landon's not going to be able to get to the mat. And then in the stand-up, Nasrat will be the bigger fighter. I believe he has like a 2-inch height, 2-inch reach advantage or something like that. So, and Nasrat's a very good kickboxer. Like, I just don't see a path at all for Land to win this fight. So, the pick is Nasrat to actually TKO him late because of just how big the skill discrepancy is. And then, look at the odds. Nasrat is a minus 440 favorite, and that's honestly a little closer than I would have thought. So definitely would parlay of Nasrat at this price. Next up, we got Jamie Mullarkey going against John Makdessi. This fight doesn't move the needle for me. For whatever reason, I don't like John Makdessi fights, but could be fun because Jamie Mullarkey, little striking defense, goes in there and bangs, unless he wrestles, but sometimes he doesn't wrestle. This is a striker versus striker matchup. Should be very competitive. Both of these fighters are 3-2 in their last 5 fights, and we have seen Jamie mix in takedowns in his last couple fights, but I don't see him doing that here or having any success doing it. Jamie does have a 4-inch height and 4-inch reach advantage in this matchup, which I think is a pretty good advantage, but I'm not sure how well he uses that advantage. Another thing that's important to note is Jamie Mullarkey has been knocked out 4 times in the UFC at this point. That's definitely a little concerning for someone with no head movement and 50% striking defense. But John has not knocked anyone out in the UFC since 2015, so I don't see him getting caught and knocked out here. And then in the striking numbers, Jamie is landing the same number of strikes as opponent per minute, whereas John is outlanding his opponents by 1 strike per minute. I expect this fight to be very closely lined. And the pick is Jamie by decision to just land the more powerful and flashy shots, along with like the crowd being behind him. But I am not confident. The odds have Jamie as a minus 205 favorite, John at plus 170. That is too wide for me, and I'm not going to bet on this fight. Next up, we got Jack Jenkins going against Chepe Mariscal. And I've been very impressed with Chepe Mariscal since he made his UFC debut against Trevor Peek. He had a very good performance, and it showed his durability, his cardio. It showed how well-rounded he is as a fighter, both on the feet and on the ground. And then on the other side, in Jack Jenkins' last fight, I believe he lost to Jamal Evers. But this fight is a completely different fight. I think Chepe has a path to victory in taking down Jack. But on the feet, he should be winning minutes. On paper, he has an 81% takedown defense, so I don't see Chepe taking him down for 15 minutes or controlling Jack dominantly. And then even if this fight gets to the ground, I see Jack having no problem getting up. And if he's winning minutes in the striking, I see it as a tough fight for Chepe to win. That being said, Jamal Evers controlled Jack for 4 minutes, so the path is definitely there. But for a pick, I'm picking Jack Jenkins to win this fight by decision. I like the size advantage, and I like the path for him to keep it on the feet. We look at the odds and we see Jack is a minus 205 favorite, Mariscal plus 170. Neither side really sticks out to me, but Chepe is definitely a live underdog here at this spot. And I think he's a very skilled fighter and potentially could be ranked. But Jack is also a skilled fighter and wins this fight. He probably is close to the top 15. So, and you have to take note of that it's in Australia, so probably go with the hometown judges. But I'm just staying away. In our next fight, we got Carlos Ulberg going against Jung. This is a pretty intriguing matchup that I'm excited for. Two young kickboxers with a lot of power and 4-ounce gloves. At one time, Jung was on a 5-fight win streak in the UFC, but since then has gone 0-2, losing to Devin Clark and Dustin Jacoby. I think it is a weird matchup that they give Jung an absolute killer and Carlos Ulberg. I like him as a prospect. He's from Korea. Would have thought they would have gave him an easier matchup, let him get a win back, but nonetheless, it should be a fun fight. And it's honestly tough to tell how good Carlos is. He looks like an absolute killer against 4 bums in a row. After getting knocked out by Kennedy and Nzechukwu, but I don't know, I really like how he's looked lately. He looks in really good form. And in this matchup here, I think the losers can get knocked out pretty brutally. The measurables are almost identical in reach and height. I do think Carlos is a much more imposing fighter and potentially stronger, but I don't think that really matters in this matchup. As for a pick, I think Carlos has looked much more impressive in his wins, outlanding his opponents by 5 strikes per minute against similarly bad competition. So, I'll pick him to win this fight. And I do believe it is by knockout either way that they win. So, pick Carlos KO. Look at the odds, and we see Carlos minus 285, Jung at plus 230. That's a little wider than I expected, but I believe Carlos, and I believe the hype that he's on right now. So I'll pick him to cover it and potentially parlay that up. Next up, we got Tyson Pedro going against Anton Turkalj. This is a striker versus grappler matchup, in my opinion. And Tyson Pedro is the most questionable fighter of all time. Some of his fights, he looks like an absolute killer. Then he looks like an absolute fraud in others. I have no idea what this dude is. He should be winning the fight on feet, but I believe Anton is a well-rounded fighter. Tyson will be at a size, a similar size to Turkalj, and historically, he does not do good against similar-sized fighters. We just saw him absolutely drop the ball against Modestas Bukauskas. And he has a 52% takedown defense. That'll be tested here in this matchup, and I think the most likely outcome is that Anton takes him down and submits him, or basically grinds him out till his cardio is gone. I think this guy has 3 minutes of cardio, does Tyson Pedro, which is also quite concerning because of how hard it is to finish Anton Turkalj. This fight's pretty hard to predict for me because I think it's pretty volatile whether Tyson Pedro lands that killer shot or not, but I don't think he does. I think Anton Turkalj can weather through it, get his fight to the ground, and get a submission. So the pick is Turkalj by sub. We look at the odds. The fight's lined as a pick'em. Was hoping plus money on Turkalj, but this is a sketchy fight. I will wait to see where this line moves. I want to look at the props. Also check out Pedro's interviews and weigh-ins. Just kind of see what's he been up to. Next up, we got Justin Tafa versus Austen Lane. This fight's a rematch here after an eye poke back in Jacksonville earlier this year. And this is another highly volatile fight where whoever wins is going to look like an absolute killer. Austen Lane has a massive speed advantage, reach advantage, height advantage, all those. But his fundamentals are striking are quite concerning. Chin's wide open in the air. He's been knocked out 3 times. And going against Justin Tafa, who has only been knocked out once in 3 losses, so that's good. And all Justin Tafa has to do here is catch him coming in once, and this fight's over. So the unders are definitely standing out to me. But I'm keeping my same prediction as I had in the first matchup. I'm going to take the speed and athleticism advantage of Austen Lane to get the win. I personally think he knocks out Justin Tafa. And when you see the odds, we see him as a plus 200 dog. Justin as a minus 245 favorite. I think at this price, Austen is definitely the side. But I'd be wary playing. Well, I don't think there's any value in the money lines, honestly. I think it's KO or nothing. And then I do like the unders as parlay pieces. Maybe the fight doesn't start round 3. 4 out of 6 losses for these fighters have come in round 1. So you could take a shot at fight ends round 1. But good luck. Definitely more interested in the unders on that fight. Next up, we got Manel Kape going against Felipe dos Santos. I'm very high on Manel Kape as a prospect. I think he would have beaten Kiefer of France if they had fought. And everybody seems like they're running from Manel Kape. Like, let's just look at how many cancellations he's had. Like, this guy's having a really hard time finding fights. Look at that. He's had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cancellations in a row. Or David Ulberg fight mixed in, but still 5 cancellations. And then here they're giving him Felipe dos Anjos, who's supposed to fight in the Contender Series. And I would have liked to seen him fight in the Contender Series, but he's not. And like, I just honestly don't see a path to victory for him. I see Felipe as more of a striker. He isn't a crazy power striker. And I don't think he has, like, that elite Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu game where, like, he's just going to catch Manel Kape. I believe Manel Kape potentially could have better grappling. So I don't like this matchup at all for Felipe. And Manel should have the advantage everywhere, including size, speed, power, even grappling. So I'll pick Manel to get the KO here. We look at the odds. Kape is minus 380 favorite. Felipe is plus 300. There was value on this line still, I think, for Manel Kape. So I'm going to use him as a parlay piece. Next up, we got our co-main event of the evening. Tuivasa versus Alexander Volkov. This matchup should stay on the feet and be a striker versus striker affair. And right off the bat, what stands out to me is that Volkov will have a massive 5-inch height and 5-inch reach advantage. I have a tough time picking a winner in this matchup because I think Volkov will be winning minutes with his size advantage, so he should be the favorite. But like we saw in the Tuivasa versus Gon fight, all it takes is one punch for the fight to change dramatically. And I think Volkov does not get up if Ty hits him and lands that one punch. As for a pick, this is a 3-round fight, so I would go with Volkov by decision because I think he has more ways to win and a clear path to victory after watching the Gon fight, but I don't have a clear read on this fight. We look at the odds, and Volkov's a minus 225 favorite. Ty is sitting at plus 185. I think Ty's a very live underdog, and I'd be definitely looking to play the KO prop at this price tag. I don't see any value really on the Volkov side at all. As for the unders go, I have a tough time picking the unders for this fight. Ty is very durable. I do see Alexander Volkov just sort of dancing around him in this matchup. Like we saw. Yeah, I don't know. I have a tough time with playing the unders here. I think the unders are going to be super chalky. So if I was going to look for a bet, I'd look at the overs. But something sketches me out about this fight that I'm just going to stay away. And then we got the main event of our evening between Israel Adesanya and Sean Strickland. For this matchup, there are kind of two fights that can happen. One fight is if Sean wrestles, and then the other fight is if Sean does not wrestle. I think it's more likely that Sean does not wrestle, so I will talk about it. Sean is the king of winning 5-round paced fights, and in this matchup, I think he will have an extremely hard time winning his fighting style because Izzy is so good moving in and out of range with his kicks and just sort of point fighting. So, like, if Sean decides not to wrestle, I see him just kind of like trying to walk down, try to cut off the cage on Izzy, and just getting point fighted for 25 minutes. So I think if that type of fight plays out, it's a 49-46 decision win for Izzy. But the other outlook for this fight is if Sean wrestles. If Sean wrestles, I have mixed feelings on how much success he will have. I do think there's not a lot of tape on his wrestling, so he could potentially catch Izzy off guard, kind of like how Alex Pereira was able to take him down. But I was watching the countdown for this fight, and Izzy said openly about how much he thinks Sean is going to wrestle. So I think he has been training wrestling and is fully prepared for Sean to try to take him down. So, and I think we've seen better wrestlers than Sean Strickland have no success taking Izzy down, like Rob Whittaker, for example, wasn't able to take him down. Marvin Vettori, Paulo Costa, all these guys probably have better wrestling than Sean Strickland, but none of those guys are Sean Strickland. So I think he could potentially have success, maybe mix in takedowns and win a couple more rounds. So I think in that outcome, where Sean wrestles, Sean will lose a 48-47 decision. But yeah, I just don't see a real good path for Sean to win this fight. I am curious how much Israel is going to push the pace and try to get a knockout here. For whatever reason, I think he might. I think he might really go for it and try and knock Sean out, but I don't know. It's tough to tell. So the pick is just going to be Izzy by decision because I think that's the easiest path to victory is for him to just point fight for 5 minutes. But the knockout is on the table. We've seen Sean knocked out twice before, but my gut's telling me it doesn't happen here. And then as for whether or not Sean will wrestle, because I think that's a key indicator for this fight, Sean's all about the money. He wins this fight, he gets a lot of money, especially all the money in the rematch. I think Sean's going to do everything in his power to win this fight. So I think it's likely he will wrestle and put his pride and ego to the side, but hard to tell. I'm not overly that excited for this matchup, though, because it's kind of a nightmare matchup for Strickland. But we look at the odds and see Izzy is a -600 favorite. Sean is +440. Those odds are a little wide, but probably right where they should be. I'm not going to use Izzy as a parlay, please, this week at that price, but you're welcome to. I'm also a little cautious on the overs, but I'll wait till the props come out to maybe look more into this fight. Curious what it'll be lined at. I expect it to be chalky for the fight to go to decision, but we'll see. And then I will give you this week's parlay. This week's parlay, we have Manel Kape parlayed up at -380 with Nasrat Haqparast sitting at minus 440, and that's parlayed up with Carlos Ulberg sitting at minus 285, and that parlay comes out to plus money, I believe. So I don't know. I have 2 units on that. So good luck this weekend, and have a nice night.